It is working. Okay. I'm Mike Schultz, Lovers Lane, East Lyme. One of the things on the agenda that I wanted to address was the health insurance transfers. I was totally confused on this because we transferred dollars to the Board of Education, and as I recall, it was over $500,000 as coverages for some of their health insurance. They did. The town has an overage on their health insurance. At one point, we were up around $1.2 million, and then it went down to $700,000. And I haven't a clue where it is right now, but that also it was also stated that other folks that are under our plan, but that are not town, like the library, for example, these and the board, they were being put on notice that there was going to be additional fees and charges. And it sounded to me like that they were going to have to come up with that money, not us. And what we ended up doing was transferring money, as I recall, from the ECS funds to the tune of $500 and some thousand. And a part of that number was even addressed in the original Board of Education presentation that was given, and the Education Director of Finance was the one that pointed out, and it was a relatively large number. So if it's possible, I know you can't answer to this now, but at sometime this evening, we could get some information on what's going on, as such that we have to transfer $211,900 for health insurance. Because to me, this is something, it's an overage, it ought to be covered and paid for by those that are getting that are causing the problem. There's a lot of people out there that are paying into the insurance, but they're not paying in enough to cover this overage from our self-insurance. So, if I may, I'm just going to set that aside for now. I'd like to address another topics. And first off, in my opinion, this Board of Finance that has served the town is the best Board of Finance we've had in years.
I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
This is the best Board of Finance this town has had
Karen, do you have that in the notes,
in
please?
years. I gave her a copy. It'll turn out.
Sorry. Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Get your
But
turn later.
you've been very, very thorough on everything, and I know it's just hours and hours and hours of work, all right? And I thank you for your diligent service. I believe your task of budget review has been made much more difficult by a limited review of the Board of Education budget by the Board of Selectmen. My opinion. The budget review process, per the town charter, requires every agency and department supported wholly on or in part by the town revenues, they shall present to the Board of Selectmen an itemized estimate of expenditures for their examination. That includes the Board of Education. The Board of Selectmen cannot, by charter, eliminate, reduce, or increase any Board of Education estimated expenditure. But they certainly should provide, in my opinion, a scrubbing effect of the Board of Education budget through intense review and suggestions. That would, of course, require an in-depth analysis of the Board of Education budget by the Board of Selectmen. Seems to me the only ones that are doing that are you. The charter then requires that the Board of Selectmen present, not the Board of Education, the Board of Selectmen present to you, the Board of Finance, the estimates of expenditures to be made by the Board of Education. In order to do that, they're going to have to scrub the dickens out of that and really understand that budget. And the revenue, so they need to, as I said, a scrubbing effect of the Board of Education budget through intense review and suggestions. That would, of course, require an in-depth analysis of the Board of Education budget by the Board of Selectmen. The charter then requires, and I'm repeating this, the Board of Selectmen to present to the Board of Finance the estimates of expenditures to be made by the Board of Education and the revenue, together with such comments and recommendations as the Board of Selectmen deems advisable with respect to any such estimate. I also feel we have deviated from some of the guidance of our charter. Some of it intentionally, some not. The intentional is by not having the Board of Finance present the budget to the annual town meeting as required by the charter. Unintentionally violated the charter by permitting persons not qualified to vote an opportunity to be heard at the public meeting that we just had. It does not authorize, it says you have to be qualified to vote. Kids don't vote. We should learn from this. In the past, I can recall statements from the Board of Ed and Board of Finance to, in my words, leave the scrubbing to the Board of Finance. And those have, in many cases, gotten great awe from those of us that were in attendance. That's a lousy thing for people to say. I heard it personally. I was there personally to hear these comments. And lastly, the town should develop a job description for the first selectman if we don't already have one. Because part of that stated by Mr. Nickerson at the public hearing, I wish he was here.
He is here.
Okay, thank you. Because part of that stated by Mr. Nickerson at the public hearing was inconsistent with the economic logic and a conflict of interest, in that his statement that part of his job responsibility is to have our property values increase. And it does nothing more than increase my taxes, your taxes, everybody's taxes, and it also increases our insurance premiums. And don't forget, Mr. Nickerson also sells insurance. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Nice, Mike, you stole my thunder. All this.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Mr. Randall.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Ronald Rando, 194 Boston Post Road, East Lyme, Connecticut. Ms. Chairman, did you receive any decision from the town attorney on the meeting the other night about people speaking?
No, sir.
Well, we made a complaint to our first selectman, but he didn't show up, but Mr. Siri showed up today and said, our town attorney said it's up to the chairman of, excuse me, the meeting. But you know, I think, I recommend that every one of you on the board, you people on the board, and the people on the Board of Selectmen, read the whole town charter. People who can speak at the meetings have to be a taxpayer. Nobody else but taxpayer. If you're a registered voter or if you own $1,000 and you're assessed for $1,000, you can speak. Now, Mr. Schultz is a gentleman. And he sat there the other night for 2 hours and listened to repeat. He finally got up and left because it got late. But I stayed till the end, which I shouldn't have, but I did. And I think that meeting was a good, not your fault, dear, or whose fault? It was a horse and pony show. Taxpayers have the right to speak at these, whether there's 100 taxpayers or 50 taxpayers. Mr. Schultz did not get his chance to speak. And that really upset me. Now, the town attorney says, well, it's up to the chairman of the finance board or the chairman of this committee. It says in here, if you're not a taxpayer, only taxpayers can speak at the meetings, okay? As far as I'm concerned, this is what runs the town, and we are not running this. The Board of Selectmen is not going by this charter, and the Board of Finance. At the annual town meeting, the only group that can present the budget to the town people is the Board of Finance. Nobody else. Not the Selectmen, not the Board of Education, but you, ladies and gentlemen, sitting right there, are supposed to present it to the public. So I hope you realize that. I still think that meeting should be null and voided. I think the 500,000 should be put back in and go to the town meeting and let it go to referendum. Because my personal opinion, it was not a legal meeting for the taxpayers. I have a lot of other things to say, but I'll hold that back. But I hope you take and listen to what I said and see if we can make things right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other folks wishing to address the board?
Yep, John Dravick, 18 Dravick Road. Yep, Mr. Randall's right. Definition of a public hearing is to hear the public. And that's what the agenda was, is an agenda item, to hear the public. But we were harangued by members of the Board of Ed, paid town officials, who occupied and monopolized the first hour of the meeting. It was another brochure presentation. They didn't belong there. Right now, when we walked into that public hearing, you had a proposed budget, a bottom line, not separated Board of Ed, not separated with the town, but a bottom line budget. We can't bifurcate, and you can't either. The Board of Ed should not have been allowed to speak, and that's what it was, the Board of Ed. The superintendent of schools sent a letter out with more than time, place, and date on it on town equipment. We went through that before with Jack Reynolds. The state ruled he was wrong, slapped him on the wrist. Now, history has repeated itself. And then to add insult, he thanks everybody for coming out on town stationery and town equipment, time, place, and date. We can't, the taxpayer always plays second fiddle in this town, and it's time it stopped. When you read the charter, hope all you all have a copy of it, it's pretty simple. The Board of Selectmen itemizes, reviews, but can't change the Board of Education budget. It gets dribbled down to the Board of Finance. You can't do much with it. What you're supposed to address is what we're paying, not what they're spending. On that note, once you've addressed what they're paying, what we're spending on the proposed town budget, the Board of Ed is equal with everybody else. And if you say it should be reduced by, I think you said the last number was about 550,000, so be it. You hand it back to the selectmen. They do personnel and everything else. The selectmen haven't been doing their job for the past 25 years. And that's since I was on the Board of Finance back then. They just pass it around, a lot of gum flapping, and nothing happens. Now, we keep hearing this term, we got to strike a balance, strike a balance. No, you don't have to strike a stinking balance. You haven't been balancing the budget on the back of the taxpayer all these years, pure and simple. It's been going up every year. Last time we had a flat budget, we went through 3 referendums and we demanded it be flat. That was over 25 years ago. We haven't been close to that yet. I agree with Mr. Rando. I won't use the term illegal, but that meeting should be null and void. Null and void. You had an opinion before, you went through that dog and pony show and you all changed your mind. It's a total embarrassment to the town, no offense. But when I sit there and see what are supposed to be impartial board members clapping for little kids giving a dissertation somebody wrote for them, come on, you gotta be kidding me. You know, no wonder Mr. Schultz left. You've kind of disenfranchised the qualified voters of this town by doing that. You gotta make it right. I say your reduction, as it stood before that hearing, should stand now. That was your recommendation, and that illegal meeting shouldn't have swayed your opinion at all, because it never should have happened. I don't know how to wear it out the point, or I will wear out the point if I keep talking about it. You all should get a copy of the town charter, read it, and then tell the selectmen, because you have the purse strings of this town, not the Board of Selectmen. You grab them by the neck and say, this is the way it's supposed to be. I would recommend you overturn negate the comments by all those people, and you go back to your original cut and forward that to the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks wishing to address the board? Okay. Next item of business is the approval of meeting minutes. Our first set of minutes are the minutes of April 10th. Are there any changes, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Next set of minutes are those of April 1st, 2019. Are there any corrections? So I have one little word to insert. It seems insignificant, but on page 2, Karen, almost halfway down, but not quite, Ms. Alberti asked how the total visits to the library are collected, and if the figure is, I think we want to stick the word up in there. It just says if the figure is for the year,
You're missing.
because the intention of that comment, I think up is significant. And let me see if I had another one here. No, I guess not. There is one comment I wanted to make. It's not a correction, though, Karen. On the top of page 5, bottom of 4, Ms. Picarazzi asked that Mr. Nickerson take a look into this. These are the longevity bonuses. And then Mr. Nickerson said that he would, which we were grateful for. I worry we're going to lose that somewhere. Anna, I'm on the top of 5. Is there somewhere we can track that commitment so we don't lose it, please? Thank you. And one more for myself on the bottom of 6. This is like a dangling participle for me. This was a comment that I made about the IT supervisor position. I asked if anyone reported to her, and the answer was no. And it says Mr. Begraw said they could change that. I would just like closure on that. Is that something we think is worth pursuing, not pursuing? It's unclear what we're doing out of that.
I mean, there's only one person that does that, so if we were going to have someone report to her, that would mean we would have to.
No, I'm not looking to have anybody report to her, but my understanding, and you know, comments are welcome. The title,
Oh, that was it, yeah.
right? Because to me, supervisors are supervising. And it seems inconsistent with what we're asking her to do. And so I don't know what action is going to come out of that because we didn't really nail it down. What are your thoughts, Anna? You look like you have
Well,
some.
actually, I think we should discuss it with Joe Begraw. Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to take action on that? Great. Anyone else have any comments on the April 1st minutes?
I do.
Okay,
Page 5, 6 paragraphs down, it starts out saying, Mr. Weber suggested that they move on to the discussion of general government. Down to the next line, it says, Mr. Birmingham suggested reducing 9 Fire Department 222 by $200. That should be $2,000.
page were you on?
5, 6th paragraph down. It says, where it says FD 222 by 200, it should be by 2,000. Because all those numbers don't add up to 9,000 if you leave it 200.
Why can't I follow
I
where you
can't
are?
find that either.
What were you on?
Are you sure it's page 5?
I know,
You're on the wrong
it's,
page.
oh, you're on the wrong, you're on
Page 5.
April 10th minutes. That's why. So,
What am I looking
Yeah, we
at?
gotta do April 1.
you were looking at
Oh,
April 10th.
Sorry,
So,
we're on the.
okay, so there was something we overlooked on the 10th. Do we need to go back in and reopen those minutes?
No, I wouldn't bother to reopen.
Okay, so
Okay.
you,
You want to change?
you got his change, right?
Yep,
No, because I wasn't looking at those.
Okay.
minutes.
Okay, understand. So
Okay.
We
it's
still
on the
have to
April
do
10th
those.
minutes on page 5.
Okay. Should we? We,
So we've already
oh,
made a
we've already
motion.
approved them.
I know, that's why I
Oh,
just,
okay.
that's what my question
Okay,
was. Do we
sure,
need to
sorry.
reopen that?
Um,
Why don't you tell us what the correction is, and then we can revote on that, just for procedure's sake.
mm,
So the April 10th minutes, John,
I got it.
page 5.
Motion,
Page 5, 6 paragraphs down.
Right,
Oh, I see it now, okay.
yeah. Okay. Karen, you see where he is?
Yeah,
Okay. So, any other comments on April 10th? We will revote on that. So, do I have a motion to accept the April 10th meeting minutes as amended?
So moved.
So, do we need to do we need to undo the previous vote?
I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to
No,
revote.
I'm just gonna change that vote.
Okay,
We'll pretend that.
good enough.
Yeah,
Good
As long
enough.
as you know what you're voting on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
You call it legal no matter what.
It's okay.
Right.
okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, April 1st notes. I just added my comments on those. Are there any other comments on the April 1st meeting minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 4-0. The next meeting minutes are for April 2nd. Are there any comments, corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Thank you, 4-0. And so that's our April. Okay, so now we're on to April 8th. So I do have, is there a motion to, no, not yet.
Not yet.
Is there any corrections or additions to the April 8th meeting minutes besides the one I'm going to give you, which is on, Karen, on item C on the first page,
Okay.
under delegations, Mike Schultz. This would save the town, the number that's been written there is 500,000, it should be 582,000. Thank you.
So, if I could, so generally with this set of the April 8th minutes, and we had a substitute recording secretary that evening, I just have a lot of issues with the minutes. I felt like certain number of things were missing, and then certain things that were said were assigned to others who didn't say them. So I think there's a significant confusion in these minutes. Don't know the best solution. There is a video still up of this meeting. It may have to stand in perpetuity, I don't know, but or the recording secretary would have to look at the video and redo.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I wouldn't accept the minutes as they are.
Okay. So,
The other thing to do is to go back and redo it and just eliminate all that narrative. And the only thing that's important in the minutes are the motions, and those need to be correct. And everything
Yeah.
else is more of a
Okay.
gratis.
Yeah.
Everything else is more of a
Okay.
courtesy to be putting all that in that. And if you're saying someone said this, but.
Yeah, I mean, it was-
Maybe you just take it all out
Yeah.
and you just get to the,
I guess.
a motion was taken, a motion was accepted or
Yeah.
not.
I don't think there was, this was.
So the only,
Close,
the,
capital.
the only issue is that, unfortunately, the topic under consideration was Board of Education budget. In particular, it was the answers to the questions that we had posed that were, which then came back to us as written answers, and then there was yet another Q&A with Board of Ed. So, I mean, for the public's perspective, you know, there's a,
It's important.
it's pretty important, it's very important. Plus, the capital budget was discussed, but, and that's how I knew there was a ton missing, to be quite blunt, so.
You can make suggestions to change it
Yeah.
or,
I mean, it would be.
table it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what's been done in the past or what your typical protocol is for that. Do you have any thoughts, Karen?
I don't think it's ever happened.
Okay, well, let's think about what are the solutions. One solution is to remove all of the language except for the motions.
Okay.
And just let the video speak for itself.
Mm.
I suppose a second option would be for Karen to review the tape and rewrite the minutes perhaps, but doesn't look like she's too willing to do that.
No, that we,
Yeah.
it's not in the job, we don't have the
Yeah,
money.
no,
Right,
that's fine,
exactly.
I understand
Double
that.
work.
So the other option is for one of us to make all of the corrections to the
Oh, boy.
meetings
Well,
and.
do you have, excuse me, if
Yep,
I may.
sure,
Does
Karen.
Ann do you have stuff written, or could you put it on here?
I mean, I would literally have to go watch the video and
I
then
thought
do
you
it that way.
meant, 'cause you
No,
had stuff and you
I mean,
just wanted to put it
there were
here, I
more,
would just-
let's say there were more than 3 to 5 items to change. Am I alone in this, or did you feel that they were,
No, you're not alone.
okay?
Well, and part of it is we're used to Karen,
Right,
and we
right.
communicate with Karen, pulls out the salient points that we have been doing for a
Yes,
while, and this is a
yeah.
different style, and there are some things that are not what we expect.
Question as to how long the video is staying up, the video, the meeting videos? I mean, they're not required to stay on forever and ever, but I don't know what our practice is.
Carmen can cut a CD.
Indefinitely? You don't,
Videos?
yeah, they're
They're not
indefinite.
permanent records, but they're up there.
For some,
I've
Though they
been-
permanent, would have to be like land use because of court things.
okay.
Mhm.
This is the other person I'm gathering.
Yeah.
This is Fran, who
Yes.
does a remarkable job with shorthand, but she was new here. and
That was a tough
with
meeting,
temp-
yeah.
With temps, you're gonna get a different product. I think maybe if we, I would just maybe recraft a synopsis.
Yeah,
I don't think you need the
So-
narrative anyway.
yeah, so maybe this is a potential solution, so we cut out the dialogue, let's say, go directly to anything that we voted on, and then let's try to keep, maybe somehow tab that, or at least reference the video in the minutes, and that'll be on, will be available to view, you know, I don't know how long that's typically done, for a year, or 2 years, we keep them on, but to recommend that, you know, that be
We
a.
can do that.
Yeah.
We can, listen, in a couple of years, this is gonna
It'd be
be a lot of
forgettable.
water under the bridge.
Yes, very forgettable, so,
For this season, we'll be sure to
yeah,
keep it
that's
on
what I
there
think.
and
You have
earmark it,
thoughts?
in fact.
Well, the only other thing is, as each one of us are referenced as saying something during the meeting, if we want to go back and watch the video and then take ownership of what is recorded that we said to make sure that it's
Yeah,
correct.
Camille, can you?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
As one suggestion, I thought that each of us could go back to the video and focus on the comments that we personally were making and make sure that they're accurately represented in the synopsis. And that way, no one person has the onus of taking this on.
That's not a possibility, sure.
So we could table this.
It's a 4-hour tape.
See, so then you'd have to pay.
Yeah.
See, that's
Yeah.
not, that's,
It
No,
gets-
we, Well, we would just,
It's a lot of money if you're, it's just not.
Can't do it.
It's too much.
I mean, not to-
For me.
no, I'm saying I guess maybe my suggestion was not worded properly. We could table these minutes until the next meeting, the next regular meeting, and each of us could go back, rewatch the tape, focus in on the statements that we personally were making and make sure they're accurately reflected here, and bring changes at the next meeting to Karen for her to incorporate into the permanent record.
It seems like the least work of all the options.
Yeah,
Because we
you
all
can
know-
Scrub through it,
Okay.
you can fast forward to
Okay.
your part, your
Okay.
speaking part.
So we'll go through and we'll see what we said. And so when we
Yes.
come back to have edits or corrections, we'll
Yeah.
have edits or
Okay.
corrections.
Close enough, because I think we actually went in order that evening on the topic of Board of Ed questions. you
Yeah.
know, So,
I think
okay.
I'm also, just for the record, if I don't feel what I said is worth recapturing, like,
yeah.
I'm not
it's
gonna
important
put it in there,
to get
but if
the
it's a pretty significant
important
point that I
things.
think is worth capturing, I'll do that.
Okay. Because the video will disappear at some point, so.
All right, so
Okay.
we're gonna table the April 8th meeting minutes.
Okay.
I did get a giggle when I saw my name in here as Ms. Paparazzi. I had a little giggle over that. I've been called worse, but, okay, moving on to the April 15th meeting minutes. Are there any additions or corrections? So the only, again, Karen, this isn't for you, but on the bottom, near the bottom of the page, Anna, you and I exchanged at that meeting that we were going to keep the overtime issue for public safety on our blotter close so that we could see how that's doing. I just want to ensure that that doesn't fall in a black hole, that we have some mechanism to review that on a regular basis. Any comments from the rest of the board?
No.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 4-0. Our next item is Board of Education reports. I see no one here from the Board of Ed.
Right.
I think we will move on. Our next item is for Selectmen reports.
Sure. Would you like, I've been working with a town attorney regarding some of the comments made tonight. Would you like me to speak to them? I don't know how
Please.
far
Sure.
along you are
Please do.
in this. 6.1.4 in our town charter said the Board of Finance will have a meeting at which hearings or hearing, any person qualified to vote at the town meeting shall have the opportunity to be heard. And you gave everybody in that room an opportunity to be heard 3.5 hours worth. You also gave other people an opportunity, and you have every right to do that. I worked it out, I had this conversation and reviewed the details with our town attorney, who right away looked at it and said, well, it's not exclusive. And only people who are taxpayers can speak. It's not a meeting that says that. It's that taxpayers have an opportunity to speak, but doesn't give you, it gives you the leeway to allow anybody you wish to hear from. So it's not a preclusive provision. All taxpayers have the opportunity to speak,